Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest monologue, or the first in a new series. This series is going to be about AI, my personal perspective. Um, Obviously, we know AI is artificial intelligence, but I'll take it from my perspective, where I consider AI to be the actual indolence in human societies that is exposed by this new advent in tech. Um, it's particularly important to me as a Kenyan because obviously I live in Kenya. But an interesting thing recently came up. I don't know what publication it was, but Kenya was Kenya was placed top in the world in use of Chat GPT. Um, Obviously, this is not absolute numbers. This is obviously corrected and weighted for exposure to the devices, population of people, and number of computers, etc., etc. Obviously, the Chat GPT server picks up all this, and that's what they came up with. And some people reacted with disbelief. Some people sort of, I'm talking about my compatriots Kenyans. Some people reacted with joy and sort of chest thumping, like this is a compliment to us. We are ahead of everybody else around because we are topping. I i i did not doubt the results, but I laughed because it is a perfect snapshot of the indolence of our society in Kenya. And this is why we topped in use of Chat GPT. We topped in it because there is no society that I know of in the world that is as in love with purported shortcuts or substitutes for physical or intellectual work like Kenya. This is why we are enthralled by AI and the different iterations, especially like Chat GPT. We're enthralled by it, and we almost treat it like a cult. You find people saying Chat GPT is here to stay. You have to. There's this stupid term I hear everywhere. You have to leverage AI to do this, that, the other, and it's top to bottom. It's from school kids to the president. Um, Everybody talks about this AI thing, and the depth of it is visible in the way some funny European AI guy, Patrick Vercoyen, met our president and quickly at some point became appointed the chancellor of University of Nairobi, our premier tertiary education institution. And he got in there, and his first big plan was to start a school of AI. I don't know if that has happened yet, but to think that someone would place that as an educational priority is bizarre in the extreme. But this is how it works. Now we need to look at AI, particularly here. I'm talking about Chat GPT because I'm talking about the AI that is used or purported to create things. Um, there's obviously the AI that the technical AI used to calculate, which AI is brilliant at calculating, and there its value is obviously quantitative. It does stuff which in maybe a few seconds, which might take a really skillful human being to calculate in a few weeks, something like that. So in that aspect, I'm not talking about that aspect because I think it's very useful if you're using AI to design a production line for computers, so that you minimize use of space or use of electricity or etc. To insert efficiency into engineering and meet certain engineering goals. And my first experience with AI, if I can call it that, was over 25 years ago as a master's student, and in the late 90s, and all these new statistics softwares were all the rage. And we with the my professor of statistics then um, was horrified at the way students would be asked in seminars, what statistical test did you use? And then a student would say, I used SPSS. Or a student will say, I used StatView, or I used this, that, the other, whatever statistical software. And you always, and I remember that lesson told that you have to say, I used certain tests like Spearman's rank correlation, or regression, or whatever, logistic regression, or whatever. That's the test you use. The computer or the software was the tool you used. And that stuck in my mind. And he always told us, before you use any tech tool, you have to understand what it is the computer is doing, because that's what I'll ask you to explain to me. So that philosophical grounding, I got to understand that tech very pretty early on, that tech is a tool. It's not an end. It's not a substitute. It's supposed to enhance efficiency. Now, there's no such thing as efficiency in creation. There's no such thing as efficiency in writing a story. A story has its own pace, or creating an artwork. Artists will tell you there's some artwork he may create in a day. There's one that might take him months, etc., etc. As the same thing with storytellers or musicians and that kind of thing, creatives. So tech cannot create, and that is where my compatriots got it completely wrong. We saw this thing and say, oh my god, it's a shortcut. So the students are using it to cook up assignments. Even our top newspapers have writers using it to write articles. That's why, for those of us in Kenya, you can see our top newspapers are rubbish now. There's hardly any article. Um, you might buy a newspaper and find maybe, like the Sunday newspapers, which are meant to have a lot of columns, you'll find a few readable, legible things, but a lot of it is just internet slop. It's just AI slop, really. And the aroma of the use of chat GPT comes at you. You see circular writing with perfect grammar, not getting to the point, etc. And if you look at, even in the graphics, there's a late night TV host in the US called John Oliver. If you watch his monologue on internet slop, you'll understand what it's about. That there's so much internet slop now. Um, fake history fake history pieces, fake photos of non-existent animals, birds, etc. Um, I've personally quit many bird photo sharing groups, because there were so many photos now being shared of non-existent birds, and someone asking, can someone identify this? Um, Someone having picked it from elsewhere, can someone identify this bird? And it doesn't exist. And so I had to quit that. I've been told that even Pinterest, which is a photo sharing platform, is been destroyed by AI generated photos, because there's hardly any reality there, so it's defeated its own purpose. And this is the tragedy we face, is that, as John Oliver said, the tragedy is not the number of those fake photos, but the number of people who believe them, the number of people who are saying, oh, what a cute bird, or when did this happen, or how can you explain this, can someone explain this to me? And you keep saying, no, it's not real. And this has polluted human society to a level that defies belief. And in my personal life, I'm a scientist by profession, and I used to do a lot of academic publications, and they'd get references, and I'd get notifications on academia.edu that my paper's been referenced in certain places. Um, from the beginning of this year, 2025, I've started getting notifications of references to papers that I never wrote, papers that don't exist, from this academia.edu. And having talked to some colleagues, they told me that they used to use ChatGPT to try and find references online for papers when they wanted to refer to certain things, but they stopped because it started giving them references to fake papers or papers that don't exist, and this created all sorts of problems. So at first, I'd look at the reference, look at who'd referred me, who'd refer to my paper, and I'd write to them and contact them because these were real people and tell them, no, that paper doesn't exist. I've never written any paper on such thing. I started doing, then they started coming more and more. Now I get 3 or 4 a week, far more than the references to my real papers. So suddenly I'm being referred in there's references to papers that are purportedly written about use of toxic fertilizers in agriculture, adoption of certain technologies in after farm storage. I have no expertise in agriculture, never written anything in agriculture. But the references keep coming. I got one even today, and they're real professors. So obviously they're picking up the references but not looking for the paper. So you see how this grows exponentially. When a student sees his professor having referred to that paper, he assumes the paper is real, and he'll refer to it as well, and the references keep coming. There are many examples that one could refer to, but this just shows how it's polluted our spaces in certain ways that are I think irretrievable. Um, if you look at the online space, social media, how many posts when you open your timeline, the proportion of AI generated things that are not real, that are just internet slop, what John Oliver calls internet slop, it's growing and growing. And I mean, I'm not this. It's probably grown on my timelines. It's probably grown by 40% this year alone, and it's destroying the spaces with which we communicate, through which we communicate. It's destroying our our shared humanity, if you will. So when you see someone sort of embracing it the way Kenyans embrace it, you know this is a society that's in trouble. We'll soon have we'll soon have paralyzed our services, our communication, our narrative, our history even. Then my personal experience is that if you go into Kenyan banks now, you don't find they lie to themselves that they're using AI to do all these banking operations. So you find the banks have very few tellers and lots of nice, comfortable seats with the TV there for people even to watch. I don't go to the bank to watch TV. I want to get my service and get out. But now they're investing in comfort of the banking hall rather than investing in services. I don't mind. You can have a few chairs maybe for the disabled or infirm people, but I don't want to sit in the bank. But do you think this is normal? My telco service provider, you cannot call them and you cannot call customer service and get a human being anymore. And there are things you simply need human interaction for in order to solve, and the list goes on and on and on. And the thing is, if you look at the costs of these AI packages and subscription to them, they're not cost savings. They're not cost savings. So this is where philosophically AI has exposed the sort of weak, indolent underbelly of the human intellect. um, we'll spend millions on this software rather than spend half the amount on human beings. What are we doing? And if you look philosophically from the economic point of view, um, what is the aim of the people who are trying to do all this automation? If let's assume they succeed to their maximum potential or what they wanted to do, so we succeed in automating everything. um, who is going to purchase these automated services if no human being is employed anymore? Or where's the purchasing power going to? Or is it other machines who are going to buy the services from other machines? What is it precisely that we are aiming for? There are a few, like visited San Francisco, and you see these. Everyone's fascinated by these autonomous self-driving taxis. Then, and if you read about them, they spent billions, tens of billions of dollars to develop it. Why? Why are you spending a 100,000 times what it would cost you to hire a driver. And yet the law still requires in some places that you have to have a sort of driver sitting in there ready to take over at any time. Why don't you just drive the car? But this is the absence of logic, and this is the part of our, I think, of our existence that we really need to protect, for our own sake, and use these tools, use them as tools, not as substitutes, the way Kenyans do. And I know why it's gotten so much traction in Kenya. Kenya is the world's leader in the academic plagiarism or academic writing industry, basically falsification of academic work for students in universities around the world. This is Kenya is the world's leader, I think, in that kind of work, and it is tacitly encouraged by the powers that be. It's called Ajira digital jobs, all these kind of things. But and these are the main users. This is what shows up on the Chat GPT servers as Kenya leading the world in use of these technologies. So what I think philosophically we need to think about what is pushed and why it's pushed. Tech is very useful in improving our lives in so many ways. There's so many useful forms of technology. I mean, bicycles, cars, cell phones, and all that. But how come no one ever pushes you to use it or even threatens you to use that? You must use it. We must live. I've never had a politician standing and saying we must use bicycles. But we have leaders saying we need to use AI. We've never had a school of car driving in a university, but we have certainly we have a school of AI. So there is a purpose being served here, and we need to be aware of it. Then make informed decisions on what part of this new advent we are going to embrace and how we are going to use it. I think I'll address some of the issues in that area on the next part of this. But this is the main thing now at this point, is to realize that this is a tool. It's not it's not a substitute for anything. It's meant to smoothen out things. It's like a lever that you can use to lift something that you would otherwise not be able to lift with your bare hands. And I think if we treat it like that, it will become clearer. And the strange thing is that we have these strange discussions in Kenya. I don't know if we have them in other parts of the world, that people keep arguing, is AI good or bad? And the worst thing, the greatest tragedy we have in Kenya is thinking that AI is actually intelligent. Like it decided, it told me this. I've seen writers who say, I've got an AI chatbot who is my friend and helps me write. And I talk to this AI chatbot when I'm feeling down. And I'm just, I really don't know how to describe that, other than it's a frightening loss of self-awareness, not realizing that these things are an echo chamber. I find people, some of these are younger people, but I find people even nearer my age actually going on to ask AI about themselves, and getting inordinately pleased with the fact that AI told them Mordecai Ogada is this great guy and all that, and they're happy with what AI said about them. It's That is the frightening thing part about AI. The tech itself does not scare me at all. What scares me is the indolence it is inducing in human societies. And the fact is that it's creating zombies. We had enough zombies without this thing. And soon the way the fake references are becoming more than the genuine ones, to in my research literature, um, soon the zombies might outnumber the real people, the real thinking people. And that, to me, is the greatest danger of the advent of this creative AI, or what people think is creative AI. It's doing irreparable damage to our society.